It's a great privilege for us to be back today. Many of you recall we were here last January giving you an update on the recycled water master planning documents. Some of you which provided input for us, thank you very much. We concluded that last year, so this is going over the results of that and to talk about a flagship project coming out of this plan, which is our groundwater replenishment project. And so if you guys don't mind, we have a few slides here. Let's get through the presentation if you don't mind, and we can go back to any slides and questions that you have. So first slide is simply a map showing that LA depends on imported water. MWD, we on a 5-year average, about 52% of our water comes from MWD. Our own LA Aqueduct is about 36%. Groundwater is about 11%, and recycled water is about 1%. This is just a simple map showing the different water sources in Los Angeles. I'm sure most of you have seen this before. The next slide talks a little bit about our water supply challenges from more of a global perspective. Obviously, there's a lot of climate change impacts that's associated with our Earth that many of you are aware of. There's regulatory environmental restrictions on water flow that can come down, especially within the Bay Delta. There's also the water energy nexus issues that we have to deal with. Contaminated groundwater sources is another issue that we're dealing with right here in Los Angeles. We need to protect our groundwater aquifer from the contamination, clean that up so we can protect that resource. And obviously, costs are very important as we move forward in terms of our water supply challenges and development. Okay, the next slide is showing the historical cost of our Metropolitan Water District. Now, this is just the treated Tier 1 rate. It's not the untreated rate, and it also doesn't include some of the extra charges that come in with the Met charges that we have. As you can see, the Met charges within the last 10 years has risen dramatically due to a lot of the capital projects that we have. 2014, we're looking at around $8.90 an acre foot for treated Tier 1 NWP water. Our local water supply initiatives comes out of our urban water management plan. This is a plan that we have to do every 5 years. The last one that our board adopted was in 2010. The 4 major initiatives that came out of it were to increase our water conservation, which the city's done excellent at, to enhance our stormwater capture, which we'll continue to do with our friends over at County Public Works, accelerate groundwater cleanup, and the 4th is what we're here to talk about today, to increase water recycling. So what is recycled water? And I apologize if a lot of you know what it is already, but just to go through a quick definition. It is highly treated wastewater that undergoes multiple treatment steps. It meets strict health and safety laws, and it's monitored and tested 24/7. We've had 30 years of successful water recycling in Los Angeles, primarily for non-potable uses, such as irrigation, for parks, cemetery, golf courses, and schools, seawater intrusion barrier down to Terminal Island, down the harbor area. We have a treatment plant that's already treating water to the advanced treatment level, putting it in the ground to prevent the seawater from coming in, and also water from lakes and river habitat going through the Japanese gardens in Lake Balboa before it discharges to the river. And to further elaborate on some of the non-potable uses that we're trying to hook up, this year we're hoping to hook up MTA, one of MTA's sites, for the first train wash facility that will use recycled water to clean trains. And also, the Metropolitan, and also MTA for the bus wash, which is adjacent to that area. We're also using recycled water for dust control, for horse ranch properties. And so we're trying to diversify our non-potable basic portfolio to not just the grass, not just for cooling towers, and not just for seawater barrier intrusion. And so what are the goals for water recycling from our urban water management plan? Well, it's to simply increase recycled water to 59,000 acre-feet per year by 2035. Now, an acre-foot of water is approximately 326,000 gallons, but imagine a football field and a foot of water. That's how much an acre-foot of water is, as a visual. And so, based on that goal, we initiated our Recycled Water Master Plan in April 2009. Like I mentioned, we came in January to give you an update on that, and we completed it in April of last year. And the key strategies that came out of there were 2 major program expansions. Number 1, groundwater replenishment, which we'll get into more detail, and to expand our recycled water distribution system by the Purple Pipe. And so here's some of our milestones. We are currently at about 8,000 acre-feet of recycled water uses within the city of Los Angeles, primarily for the customer base that I mentioned. Now, As a side note, the city as a whole, in partnership with Bureau of Sanitation, by the way, the Recycled Water Master Plan was done in collaboration with our friends over at the Bureau of Sanitation. We are recycling, or I should say, we are reusing approximately 20% of all of our treated wastewater effluent from the 4 plants. About 90 to 95,000 acre-feet of treated effluent is being reused in some beneficial way. But the one number that we're tracking within our urban water management plan is this number here that directly offsets the in-city retail potable sales that we buy from the Metropolitan Water District. So 8,000 is roughly where we're at today, which leaves an additional 51,000 acre-feet to make up to get to that 59,000 acre-foot per year goal by 2035. We have some intermediate projects to try to hit that 20,000 mark in the near term. In January of this year, we reached an agreement with our Bureau of Sanitation Department to fully expand our Terminal Island water reclamation plant to where we're going to try to recycle every single drop out of that plant and reuse it inland for the seawater barrier and other customers down there. We have a project right now that we're hoping to extend the recycled water pipe all the way down through downtown, down to USC, through the corridor there to be able to offset up to 3,000 acre-feet of recycled water. So those are some of the short-term projects that we're hoping to implement that's really in our budget to reach an intermediate milestone of 20,000. Okay, so to get to the extra 39,000 that's needed, so the groundwater replenishment is going to be the flagship project. The goal is to try to get up to 30,000 acre-feet of reusing the Donald C. Tillman effluent within the groundwater basin here to get 30,000. So how does the process work? Well, wastewater comes in through our wastewater system. It gets treated through preliminary and primary means. Then it goes through secondary. And then it goes through a tertiary filtration process, which is what our Donald C. Tillman plant in the Sepulveda Basin treats to. That, we are already currently using some of that water out of that plant for non-potable uses in the San Fernando Valley, our own valley generating station, in the Sepulveda Basin, and other uses along the way. And so what we're proposing as part of this project is to build what we call an advanced purification facility, similar to the one down in Orange County. By a quick show on fans, how many people are aware of the Orange County Water District's groundwater replenishment program? Who's actually seen that plant? Okay, so we're going to be offering, hopefully, a sign up for a tour of that. Evelyn's going to be talking about that in a little bit. But what we're trying to do is build something similar to what our friends down in Orange County have done. And that's a combination of microfiltration, reverse osmosis, and ultraviolet hydrogen peroxide to produce highly purified water that exceeds drinking standards. So that's an overview of the treatment process. We're trying to get 30,000 of that out of our Tillman plant. And so how is it going to work? Well, the proposed location for this plant is going to be our own Donald C. Tillman plant that's run and operated by our Bureau of Sanitation. We're going to build a plant there, is the proposal, and we already have a pipeline that goes northeast to the Hanson spreading grounds, where we're going to take that water, mix it with the storm water, have it mixed, go into the groundwater, and eventually pump it out and treat it into the distribution system as potable water. That is how the system is going to work. And so to talk a little bit about the specifics of where we're at, we're currently initiating the NEPA and the CEQA process. What is NEPA for the GWP project? The NEPA is an act that was passed in 1970. That's on the federal level. And it basically consists of 3 steps to analyze the impacts of the proposed action, to disclose the results of the analysis to the public, and to identify measures to mitigate the impacts. The CEQA is just the state environmental process, and it mirrors pretty much the NEPA steps that you see there. Pretty much the same process there. So we're going to be going through both in our groundwater replenishment project. And this is a flowchart showing us the steps that we are going to be taking throughout this process. We are here right now within the stakeholder briefings with council office and neighboring councils. We're going to be going in parallel with public review. That's what the difference between the arrow and the plus sign. The plus sign meaning is going to go in parallel. We're going to have public scoping meetings. We're going to have a draft environmental document. And all these additional steps before the record of the decision of the project. And we'll talk a little bit more about the timelines of this CEQA process coming up. And so the overall timeline for our groundwater replenishment project looks like this. We are here in 2013. We are in the start of our environmental analysis. We are going to be doing pre-design in parallel. Final design we hope will start sometime in 2016, with construction hopefully being completed early date of 2022. Now the Orange County plant that they just built, from the start of their CEQA to start of operation took about 10 years. And so this is sort of a rough timeline for us to hopefully have this project implemented by that time frame. So here's some intermediary things. We hope to get out the notice of preparation for review within a couple of weeks, by mid-August. Public comments are due at the end of September with 45 days. Public scope meetings as early as September of this year, and the draft environmental document, we hope it's going to be mid to late 2014, with probably the final adoption of the environmental document sometime in 2015. That's our rough timeline right now, depending on the comments and the support that we get for this project. Okay, so assuming that we're successful in doing this, that's an additional $30,000 that we're going to be able to get to meet this goal. The proposal right now in the Urban Water Management Plan is to do it in 2 phases. To do it 15,000 acre-feet by 2022, 2023, and the additional 15,000 to come on in 2035. Now our board in this past October passed the guiding principles document where they're asking us to take a look at what does it take to accelerate these goals even more, if we can get the 59,000 acre-feet before 2035. And so one of the things we're looking at is if we can reach that 30,000 right here around the 2022 mark that we talked about in the previous schedule. So that leaves 9,000 acre-feet remaining to reach the goal. And that can be done with a combination of different non-potable projects, expanding our peripheral pipe throughout the city. And one of the ways that we can do that as a highlight is to partner with agencies that have excess recycled water around the periphery of Los Angeles where they're not using that water, and we want to use our water for groundwater replenishment. And so the city of Burbank, the city of Glendale, and also the Las Verdes Municipal Water District, we are in discussions with them to try to take their extra recycled water to use it for non-potable purposes in the valley to offset potable uses. And so assuming we're successful with that, we'll reach our 59,000 acre-feet by 2035 per our 2010 Urban Water Management Plan. So as we roll this plan out there, we talked to many of our stakeholders, many in the Recycled Water Advisory Group, with so many of you here have participated. That's all good, but the next question becomes, okay, 59,000 acre-feet, that's still a small percentage.
Yes.
Let's go beyond that. Let's go beyond that. And we did a long-term concepts report, which was the fun part of this report, where we literally took off the blinders and said, okay, what can we really do to make a huge dent in our water supply locally here beyond that? Hyperion. Hyperion keeps coming up. Currently, there is 290,000 acre-feet of secondary treated effluent that is going out sanitation's 5-mile outfall to the Pacific Ocean. And so what we looked at doing is, how can we possibly reuse that water? And one of the concepts we came up with is we worked very closely with the plant personnel to identify sites at Hyperion where we can build advanced treatment facilities similar to the one we're proposing in Tillman to be able to reuse this water before it goes out to the ocean. And so, not to get into too much detail on that, but we did look at that to see what can be in LA to make us totally water sustainable here as a community and depend all the more less on imported water from our own aqueduct and from NEPA. As a side note, this is the 100-year anniversary of our aqueduct, William Mulholland's aqueduct, and ironically, it is the worst projected runoff year for LA Aqueduct in the 100-year anniversary. And so, this is a real thing. The drought's a real thing. All the issues up in Owens Valley is a real thing. So we need to do what we can down here locally to protect our supply and reuse as much as possible. Conservation, stormwater, and obviously water recycling. So what's our next steps? 3 key points. Number 1 is to implement our groundwater replenishment project out of the Donald Tillman plan. Like I said, we hope our notice of preparation will go out within a couple of weeks. The second point is to maximize non-potable reuse through partnerships with other agencies, but also we do have plans to use as much water as we can out of our LA Glendale plant for irrigation during the summertime. As I mentioned, our Terminal Island treatment plant with sanitation, we're hoping to recycle every single drop out of there by adding advanced treatment facilities there by 2017. And to explore potable reuse alternatives, looking at Hyperion. So we can build a plant out of Hyperion plant, but how do we reuse it? Do we use some of it for groundwater recharge, or do we use other ways such as direct potable, which is something that there's not a pathway on, but it's something that the legislators and the public have engaged in initial discussion. So we also want to take a look at the acceleration of these goals. as our board has adopted the guiding principles document, we hope to figure out a way on how to accelerate this, but in a way that's going to evaluate the rate impacts on what it's really going to cost the average citizen to do this. Now, we know that doing water recycling long-term makes sense from a financial perspective compared to the MWD rates that I've shown up here. However, we've got to do it in a fiscally responsible way that makes sure that we look at all of our options and make sure that this solution is going to be a long, sustainable one for the city of Los Angeles. So at this point, Evelyn Cortez is going to come up and talk a little bit about our outreach efforts that we've done within the past 2 years.
Thanks, Paul. My name is Evelyn Cortez-Davis. I'm a civil engineer with the LA Department of Water and Power, and I work with alongside Paul to work on all of our regulatory and legislative ordinances and stakeholder engagement aspects of the recycled water program. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of information of how we went about preparing this master plan so that we had community input during the process. One of the key elements of it was the Recycled Water Advisory Group, which we, in late 2009, sent out invitations to, at that time, all of the leadership of every neighborhood council in the city, inviting them to join the Recycled Water Advisory Group. Some of you may remember that, may recall when we came and visited with you January of 2012 to talk about this. Some of you actually have been serving on the Recycled Water Advisory Group with us for the last 3.5 years. We have representation from about a dozen different neighborhood councils on the RWAG, the Recycled Water Advisory Group. So this is something that has been a significant help to the city team as we go in through the planning process to figure out how to best expand recycled water use in the city. So we have Silver Lake, Encino, Mar Vista, Panorama City, and about a dozen more that have been participating with us, and we certainly appreciate all of the investment of time. We have been briefing LA stakeholders as we've gone along. Basically, we want to make sure that anyone that has an interest in the program, we are responsive to, but also that we are proactively going out and sharing information. So one of the things that we're doing right now is trying to develop a strategy to bring the findings of this plan to the general public, because we have been engaging the community with key stakeholders. However, we want to make sure that the general public in Los Angeles, as many of the 4 million of us that are here, are aware of the plan that we're moving forward with and that we need to implement in order to be more sustainable as a city and including recycled water. In spring of 2011, we had 7 different recycled water forums. So we selected different locations throughout the city and we shared information about what the planning process was going to be like. And although we didn't have great participation, not a lot of people that came to these forums, we did have an opportunity to speak with quite a few and got questions, and we were able to answer them. And we're looking to actually roll out more of these community forums to talk about recycled water, and we'll be looking to your leadership actually to tell us how best to spread the word about these types of events, and we're hoping to work with you on that. As you know, we have a new mayor, we have some new council members, and we are continuing to try and engage our incumbents as well. We're looking to brief them on the status of our projects and the implementation of the master plan as soon as they have an available opportunity for us to come in and talk with them. So we want to make sure that they're also informed about where we're moving forward with on recycled water. In addition to engaging stakeholders, we knew this is a very technical process, very technical project that we're trying to move forward with. So in addition to stakeholders, we partnered with the National Water Research Institute, and back in 2010, they formed on our behalf an independent advisory panel of scientists and experts to basically kind of tell us whether Paul's team is doing a good enough job and whether the technical analysis balances out and if it makes sense for us to move forward with this strategy. And their answer was a resounding yes. They met, their most recent meeting was back in February of this year. They have issued us a report back and dated April that basically contains a statement that you see in your handout and up on the screen that essentially supports potable reuse or reuse for drinking water purposes, for the replenishment of groundwater that will eventually replenish our drinking water supplies, specifically the groundwater replenishment project that will be replenishing the San Fernando Basin supplies up in the San Fernando Valley. Now, the San Fernando Basin then gets the wells that take that water out of the ground. The water basically mixes with all of the other supplies that go throughout the city. So it isn't necessarily the San Fernando Valley that will be served with that water. The water basically will go to about half of the service area within LADWP service territory. So it is a key component of what we are looking to do to have a more sustainable supply and rely less on the imported water that Paul was talking about. So bottom line, one of the benefits of recycled water is it is safe, local, and reliable. If you remember nothing else from today, these are the three things that we need to make sure that everyone understands about the recycled water we're trying to expand the use of. It is safe, it is local, reliable, and in the long run, it will eventually pay off because it will cost less than us doing nothing, and continuing to purchase MWG water will cost us more. So that is why we are really hoping to get the support of all of our stakeholders. That's why we're here today. This is what we want. We would like your support for the recycled water program and for the groundwater replenishment project. And as a matter of fact, I have these little cards that we have out there, and we'll take questions in just a moment because I'm almost done. I do want to encourage you to stay updated on our website. If you can do me a big favor, can you look at this slide on your handout for me? And right where it says LADWP.com, could you put a slash right here and write the recycled water right here with no space? Because if you go to that and type that as your link, it'll take you right to the recycled water webpage, and it'll be a lot easier. You don't have to navigate into it. And then you can find some of the documents that Paul was talking about a little bit earlier, some of the recycled water master planning documents, information on the RWAG, and other types of updates. Their executive summary for the master plan is 25 pages long. It summarizes thousands of pages of technical analysis, and we're working on some fact sheets that will be much shorter than that for you to come up to speed on all of the information. We also, I'm going to pass around, if you're interested in touring our water reclamation plans, not only tell me from the San Fernando Valley or Orange County Water District, I have a whole stack over here going to. I'm going to pass this around. Please, we would love to organize dates. We don't have dates yet, but if you're interested and put your name on here, we will contact you. And if as an individual you have enough information now to offer support for the city's recycled water program, we would welcome you as a DWP ratepayer to fill one of these out as an individual, and we welcome the opportunity if you have an interest in having us come to your neighborhood council and present them. Mark the last box there, and we will contact you to schedule a presentation to your individual neighborhood council. Sign up today. Sorry, and I just wanted to get to the questions because there's a few of them I saw firsthand over here. Yes.
I gave my first speech on the coming global heating, as I called it back in 1967. The need to recycle everything, including water. And my reward was to be reported to the FBI as a communist. I still hear 59,000 is not nearly enough. I would just encourage you to make sure by 2035, that every drop that goes into Hyperion does not go into the ocean, not a single drop. Because if we don't do that, really, my son is more knowledgeable than me. He says, Dad, you're more optimistic now than I am, because I'm more up to date on all the issues, and he's a PhD in the material science. We have to stop every kind of metal from getting into the water we're using. We've got to have laws that do that. And we've got to realize that if they're correct, that by 1935, we'll have a 2035, we'll have a 4-degree increase in temperature on this planet. We're going to be in serious trouble for water. So I just want to encourage you, push ahead and aim for 200,000 acre-feet of water.
And we're going to go here, then.
And I'll be happy to drink some of it publicly on television if we need to
Sorry,
do
we're
that.
not knowing the names.
Cindy?
Cindy, thank you.
I'm from the Salamanca area. Does this program have any connection, relationship to the Prop O?
Not a direct connection. We do work with the Bureau of Sanitation, and Doug Walters is our partner for the Bureau of Sanitation who's here today. Prop O is a separate program that captures, is in order to capture more stormwater and to go into the ground.
Because up in our area, you know, we just have a wealth of it, and then we have, of course, you may know about it already, a site perfect for Prop O that would help with this purpose. So we're really anxious to move that forward.
We can follow up with Cindy on the Prop O question.
Okay.
Any other questions on the recycled water presentation?
Yeah, Paul.
Paul.
Hey, a couple of quick points. Recycling, of course, makes the most sense. I mean, economic sense, it's also a matter of survival. But yet, there's a proposition, I think, that's winding through the state that would basically construct water tunnels to transport Delta water down to the south. The estimated cost of that is somewhere between $20 to $30 billion. Instead of pursuing that insanity, why aren't we lobbying to say, let's put some of that money into recycling? All right? And then one other quick point. Up in the Tahoe area, there are strict landscaping regulations that promote the filtration of water from homes and from businesses, and to keep the lake as clear as possible. And it really, really works. I think we need to integrate that as much as possible, or landscaping techniques as much as possible within the communities in LA to promote that water. So even by the time it starts to go down the sewers, it's already been through some degree of filtration.
Thank you. Paul, you raised a really important point regarding the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, which is the name of the big project that you're referring to. One of the things to bear in mind is, and Paul went over this, some of you are very familiar with it, so I apologize for repeating it again. The current state of affairs right now is we depend on an average year, about half of our water supply from the Metropolitan Water District. And in a dry year, it's a lot more than that. Next year, 70% of the water delivered to Los Angeles is expected to come directly from the Bay Delta area of California. So we do rely a lot on that. However, when we implement all of these local water supplies, all these great programs that we're proposing to build, we had a magic switch and we put them on all online today. Even then, we would still be relying on Metropolitan Water District imported supplies for about 24% of our water supply, 27%, sorry, of our water supply, which means that 27%, that's a significant amount, and our imported water supply does need to be more reliable than it is. And so that's part of the reason that we are actually looking into the Bay of Delta Conservation Plan as one of the things that will strengthen the reliability of our water supply. Regarding the landscaping, and this is a critical issue for the conservation side of the house, we have a program right now that will analyze, or a study that we're launching that will analyze the conservation potential that's left in the city of LA. We've done such a tremendous job conserving water that outdoor conservation is really going to be the way to go. Commercial conservation is going to be the way to go, and we need to know how to invest that money best. So you raised excellent points. Thank you. And who was next? Terrence, can you help me out?
Oh, I'm sorry, Saran was, and then David.
Thank you.
Two things. My understanding is that we use more water to produce electricity. A whole lot of water to produce electricity. And number two, there's something called fracking, and nobody knows what's in those chemicals, and that water is coming in, and we've got it up here in Baldwin Hills. I'm just curious, because I never hear the term fracking and connecting electricity with water, and it seems to me like it's all connected. And the bottom line is that the trash that goes down the streets from the transportation, because they never empty their trash cans, is a whole other thing, and I don't hear the connecting of all this stuff. I know what you're doing is wonderful, and I want you to know with every rain, we think of almost 150 gallons of water, so I never have to use water in my backyard
Thank
at
you
all.
so much.
And it's fun. It's a game. So I just wanted to ask about the fracking and electricity, because it seems to me it's all connected.
You raise an excellent point about water and energy. They're definitely connected. And a large amount of the electricity that's used in the state of California actually is used to move water from Northern California to Southern California and over the Tehachapi Mountains. So you have an excellent point, and that is why we want to be able to rely more on local water supplies, and why recycled water and stormwater and conservation makes more sense. So we definitely have a water energy nexus, and there is information out there that is more readily available than what we presented today on water energy and how they connect together. So if we can look into getting a little bit more information to you on that, if you would like.
What about the fracking and not knowing what's in that water if it's going to be recycled?
You know,
it was interesting to me that the tar pits was leaking into Biona Creek, and they didn't know where the tar was coming from. Okay? So we have a lot of interesting things around
we
here.
do. So regarding the fracking question, because I apologize, I'm not an expert on fracking.
Nobody
What
is.
I can do, what I can try to look into is whether we can have some information filtered over through Terrence. If there's links that we can find for you that would be useful for you, so you can get informed. Because the truth is that it is an issue that's being raised a lot in the community, and people want to know more about it, what it is, how it connects to us, and we can certainly track down some links for you. Okay. This is not an operation, by the way, that LADWP would be proposing to do. We would not.
Oh, I know.
These are not our projects, but we can try to find information because it does affect our basins.
Mar Vista, right? It's Mar Vista, yeah.
Mar Vista. Hi.
I'm curious, you mentioned the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. Has EWP looked into to see how much NWD plan is going to cost city ratepayers?
Are you talking about the Bay Delta Conservation Plan costs? You know, unfortunately, I don't have that off the top of my head right now. I did not come prepared to present or really discuss the detail of the Bay Delta Plan.
Because I know it's moving forward pretty quickly.
Their environmental process is moving forward right now. And if I can get 20 seconds, I can look up the website right now that has that information. I can try to give it to you before I leave.
All right, and the last question.
Well, first of all, when looking at Assemblymember Blumen's website, he was talking about what my senator Pavley was talking about for fracking. So there's information, if you go on the Assemblymember's site, you can probably talk about what they were looking at the state level. In regards to the Delta, having had this presentation at last month, fall, I spent my vacation going through the Northern California area, paying a lot of attention to things like that. All beautiful water that was from Lake Shasta down to San Pablo Bay. So it's wonderful, and it's so nice that they lend us the water. In regards to what we're talking about in terms of spreading grounds and everything like that, again, I grew up in the Las Virgenes Water District, so I'm glad that you're going to be able to finally take our capital water. We have purple pipe everywhere, and I think that's a key element of not just replenishing the groundwater, but how that's going to be used and distributed, whether there are other client cities who have their own capillaries to be able to get it out on individual lawns or big uses. That's real key. We talked about in Griffith Park, there's a lot of transmittal lines, and we're trying to get stuff over the Vermont Canyon. And that's really good. The question I had about Hyperion, are you thinking that there may be a use in terms of potable? Because at some point, when we're talking to our less studied constituents or fellow board members, they're going to want to know how much of this is being talked about for potable as opposed to other uses. Because there's always going to be that stigma. It's going to be a long ways before somebody gets that level of recycling under their skin.
Yeah, if I understand your question, it's in regards to what we studied at Hyperion. How we're going to use it is going to be for non-portable uses or for portable uses. And what we think is going to be the best bang for the buck out of Hyperion is going to be used for portable reuse purposes, such as put it into the ground, into groundwater, or what we call direct potable reuse, which, by the way, it's not ready for prime time. You know, it's that there's no regulations on it yet, but people again are talking about this, where people are understanding, the experts now, that if you're going to treat this water through this process, and those of you, I really encourage you to take the Orange County tour with us and drink the water we all have. It is better.
On YouTube, they have
A little thing.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it is better. Akil Hauser, he also did it on his show.
Yes, it's on the show. It is better than drinking water quality. So why put it in the ground, have to retreat it, and pump it on the way out? And so the direct potable reuse out of Hyperion is what we're hoping eventually is the great vision that can happen to make us a sustainable city. So potable reuse, building non-potable out of Hyperion just doesn't make sense to do purple pipe all over the city, tear the streets. It just doesn't make sense for us to do that. Let's get our biggest bang for the buck through potable reuse.
Okay.
I just have one question.
Quick.
Yeah, have you tried purifying ocean water and making it into drinking water?
Yes, we've looked at that. I believe what you're referring to is ocean desalination, and we are looking at that. And the cost on that is still more expensive than if we recycle our water before it hits the ocean. And the reason is because once you mix it in the ocean, it gets all that additional salt. Now you've got to take all that salt out. The energy it takes to do that, rather than just treating it at the plant and reusing it, is definitely more. And so that's definitely something that is an option out there that we've looked at and other cities have also.
All right. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
I hope this has given you enough information to take it back to your neighborhood councils. And next month we'll be at LANCC, we'll be looking at putting a motion forward
And I'll take the...
to get the city council to start really moving on this. So, you want to do the treasurers right now? We'll move right forward into treasurers. Okay, from our own Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, Gracie Lou.